In the blistering sun of Sweetwater, Texas, every spring brings a spectacle that draws locals, scientists, thrill seekers, and the simply curious. The legendary rattlesnake Roundup. Among the hundreds, sometimes thousands of rattlers brought in, one snake in 2021 stood out in a way few ever had. Measuring 7.5 feet long, the massive western diamondback rattlesnake wasn't just Bidget, was record-defying. For comparison, the average adult diamondback in the region usually hits between 3 to 5 feet in length. This beast stretched out like a coiled rope of muscle and menace, drawing gasps even from seasoned handlers. But it wasn't just the length that left jaws hanging. The girth of the snakeid, described by onlookers as thick as a fire hydrant, was beyond anything the event had seen in years. Its diameter required 2 hands to hold. Some initially thought it was 2 snakes entangled until they saw it uncoil. Its rattle told a story of age and survival. A typical adult western diamondback might carry 8 to 10 rattlesown for each shedding of the skin. This snake had 23 full segments, indicating not just age, but a long, successful, and clearly predatory life. Each rattle segment clicked and buzzed like a death warning when the snake was disturbed. When it was first captured, footage showed the serpent striking out at a nearby plastic water bottle, mistaking the reflective surface for a threat or prey. The strike was blindingly fast, but thanks to slow-motion footage, viewers could see the full mechanics of the attack. The jaw unhinging, inch-long fangs fully extended, and venom glands flexing just behind the eyes. Those present during the roundup recall the sound of the strike. Even through leather boots and thick denim, seasoned hunters shifted their footing nervously. The force of the strike was strong enough to knock the bottle several feet away, clear evidence of the sheer power this reptile had stored in its body. After it was safely captured, the snake was brought into the dissection tent area, reserved for educational demonstrations and biological analysis. While some advocate for snake relocation, Sweetwater's event often includes humane euthanasia followed by scientific dissection, especially for abnormal specimens. During the examination, handlers noticed something unusual. Despite its massive size, the snake had retained smooth movement, and its muscle density was unlike anything the biologists expected. Cutting deeper, they discovered a cluster of 14 eggs nestled in the lower third of its body, meaning the snake was female and had likely been gravid for some time. Normally, western diamondbacks carry around 4 to 10 offspring. The fact that she carried 14 viable eggs was a sign of her exceptional fertility and survival success. Many experts theorized that her size was the result of both age and a genetic disposition toward large clutch sizes. Her condition also suggested she had been feeding well, likely on a diet of rodents, birds, and even young rabbits. Biologists noted partially digested remains in the lower intestine, including fur and small bone fragments, evidence that her hunting had been fruitful up until her capture. The inside of her stomach revealed heavily keratinized lining, a trait that develops in older snakes to resist sharp bones or claws from prey. This reinforced the idea that she had lived for over a decade, possibly even 15 years, which is near the upper limit for a wild rattlesnake in Texas. There was also evidence of old wounds and healed scars along her midsection. Experts believe she had survived predator attacks, including what looked like puncture scars from bird talons, perhaps a failed attempt by a hawk or eagle. This further cemented her status as a seasoned survivor of the wild. Her venom glands were also notably large, and the venom yield during extraction was far higher than the average rattlesnakes. Under UV light, the venom shimmered a dull green-yellow, with biochemists noting a high concentration of hemotoxins, the primary agent in western diamondback venom, which destroys blood cells and tissue. The team performing the dissection captured each stage of the process for documentation, education, and further study. Photos and video of the specimen quickly went viral among herpetologists and amateur wildlife enthusiasts alike. Many saw her as a biological marvel, a rare look into what a fully mature, dominant female rattlesnake could become in ideal conditions. Though her death sparked debate among conservationists, the Sweetwater team emphasized that her capture contributed significantly to understanding diamondback biology, reproduction, and survivability. "She told us stories through her body," one of the dissection leads commented. "You don't get snakes like this often. Maybe once in a generation." After the examination was complete, her body was preserved for future study. The skin was tanned and sent to a local museum, while her skeleton was articulated and donated to a Texas university for comparative anatomy. Her venom was frozen and tagged for toxin research. In the weeks following the event, wildlife forums and snake conservation pages lit up with discussion. Was her size purely genetic? Or had changes in prey populations and habitat played a role? Some proposed that increased rodent activity in Sweetwater, due to nearby agricultural shifts, might be providing diamondbacks with easier meal sand, faster growth. Others pointed out that climate patterns may also be a factor. Warmer winters and longer summers have been noted across Texas, which could allow snakes to remain active for more months of the year, hunting and breeding with greater success. There were even whispers from a few seasoned snake wranglers that they'd seen another one, just as big, the year before, but it escaped into a rock pile before it could be measured or captured. Could there be more like her out there? Whatever the case, this rattlesnake became something of a local legend. Residents still talk about her when the Roundup season nears. Kids point at the preserved skin behind glass and try to imagine a snake that big slithering through the brush just outside town. In the folklore-rich culture of rural Texas, where desert myths meet ecological reality, this snake became more than a specimen. She became a symbol of survival, fear, and fascination. Her silent rattle may no longer shake the grass, but her story continues to echo through Sweetwater. For many, the image of her striking that bottle fangs fully visible, power coiled and unleashed in a flash serves as a reminder of nature's raw, unfiltered presence. Not everything in the wild bows to expectation. Sometimes, it breaks the mold. Sometimes, it hisses, rattles, and rules the Roundup. What made this particular rattlesnake even more fascinating was how well it had adapted to human-affected environments. Although it lived in the wild, it had clearly benefited from the edge habitats, the transitional zones between human development and wilderness, where prey animals thrive. Grain silos, field borders, and garbage dumps attract rodents, and rodents attract snakes. It likely used burrows dug by other animals to escape the Texas heat and preserve energy. Rattlesnakes are ambush predators, and this one appeared to be a master at it. Evidence from the digestive tract showed it hadn't just fed on one kind of prey, it diversified, striking at birds, mammals, and even amphibians when needed. Her skull was examined closely after dissection, and researchers were impressed by the structural density of the bone. Older rattlesnakes often show signs of wear or erosion on jaw and skull from years of feeding and striking. But hers was in remarkably good shape, another clue that she had dominated her environment without frequent injury. Her scales were thick and had a dark, dusky sheen, a perfect camouflage against the dry grasses and rocky outcrops of West Texas. She was a ghost among the brush silent, until she chose not to be. Her natural coloration made her practically invisible, and some speculated she could pass within feet of someone without being noticed. Interestingly, despite her power and size, there was no evidence she had ever attacked a human. No metal fragments, no old scars from boots or tools, no embedded signs of conflict. She had existed entirely within the domain of wild predator and prey, and avoided human conflict entirely until the Roundup. The skin itself, when stretched and examined, showed unique patterning. The diamond shapes along her back were unusually well defined, darker and more symmetrical than average. Some called her queenback, after the regal stripe that ran along her spine like a crown. The venom harvested from her glands was distributed in microdoses for research into blood clotting disorders and venom-resistant anti-serums. Ironically, the same toxin that could cause tissue necrosis was now potentially going to save lives in future medical breakthroughs. She also became part of a genetic research study looking into size anomalies and fertility in wild reptiles. DNA from her organs and blood was sent to labs across the US and Europe, with scientists hoping to understand whether she was a rare mutation or part of a growing trend in diamondback evolution. In a broader ecological sense, her existence sparked questions about predator balance in Texas ecosystems. Were apex reptiles like her playing a larger role than previously thought? Could such dominant females be influencing the gene pool in subtle but powerful ways? Even months after the event, her legend grew. Stories circulated online, exaggerated by retelling some, said she was 10 feet long. Others claimed she killed a coyote. Myths and facts merged, as they often do in rural towns, but the core truth remained. She was real, and she was extraordinary. She became a kind of symbol, not just of Texas wildlife, but of resilience. In a landscape often bulldozed for farmland or drilled for oil, this snake had carved out a life of power and secrecy. She had ruled her stretch of brushland without mercy or fear, and now, her story was being told in classrooms and documentaries. Children who once feared snakes began to ask questions. Locals who used to see rattlesnakes only as pests started to appreciate their role. And in Sweetwater, where the rattle once meant danger, it now also meant mystery, biology, history, and awe.